welcome to Endzone, your destination for a different look at the world of football. I'm your host, Jeremy York. Hopefully, you've gotten a chance to check out our fantasy guru and odds maker, Joseph Sparty. He's posted some videos on our Facebook page where he shows you how to do the perfect fantasy draft. If you haven't drafted yet, definitely check those out. He breaks it down so easy that anybody should be able to have a successful draft. And always, you can send your questions, thoughts, ideas to us about that. Also, if you get a chance, John Watts is our high school and collegiate correspondent. He's on top of everything, all the local teams and everything. If you have any stuff, send it that way. But let's dive into what I didn't think was going to be such a big issue until now it's become a big issue. Former Bears linebacker Brian Urlacher, who retired last year, has come out to say that sometimes they would fake injuries to disrupt an offense. There was a particular motion that at some point the head coach would give them that would make sure that the player that was supposed to fall down would fall down and fake the injury in order to make the offense have to slow down. These fast-paced offenses and everything that people like New England and Denver have made popular. And the current Chicago defensive coordinator, Mel Tucker, said, we don't do that. However, the current tight end for the Bears, Martellus Bennett, first year with the Bears, he says every team does something like that. This is it's crazy to think that either A, we're just learning about this, or that at some point somebody finally had the whistle blow. But in the same way that Tiki Barber, as soon as he retired, decided to slam the Giants for many things they did, for some reason Urlacher's decided to slam the Bears. It could have been the way he left. He didn't really appreciate it, or he could have just, been feeling good that day when he talked. But the way this story is developed, at least today, is Chris Mortensen was reporting earlier that the NFL's offici- he was the officiating boss, I believe is his correct title, Dean Blandino, sent a memo to all 32 teams reminding them of the policy that prohibits faking injuries. Apparently, there's a lot of fines and possible suspensions that can go from this. The NFL plans to take a closer look at this issue as well. I think they have a special committee that maybe Roger Goodell's put together to try to prevent this from happening the same way that the NBA is having problems with flopping. Uh, if you guys will remember last year the Pittsburgh Steelers player Emmanuel Sanders, an offensive player, was fined $15,000, and the Steelers organization was fined $35,000 for an incident where he supposedly faked an injury in order to slow down time. This could really it could be the NFL's version of flopping at this point if Goodell and Blandino don't put this together. They need to do something in order to crack down on this. It's bad enough that guys are fighting concussions with the settlement that the NFL just had and everything, and then now we're having to worry with people faking injuries. I don't understand why people would want to do that. But to swap from one somewhat crazy story to by far the oddest one of the offseason, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a MRSA staph infection. It's one of the strongest forms of staph break out at one of their practice facilities earlier this year. Offensive lineman Carl Nix was contracted the MRSA virus as well as kicker Lawrence Tynes, who came over from the same Giants we just mentioned. Carl Nix was just they caught it kind of early. I know my brother dealt with this earlier this year in his knee. And if you catch it early enough, most of the time they just give you a round of antibiotics. You kind of, sometimes they may have to drain things or something. I'm not going to really get into it on here right now because it can get kind of graphic. But for the most part, if you catch it early, it's easier to contain. Lawrence Tynes was not quite so lucky. He ended up having to have surgery where they had to scrape all the infection out on his injured toe. And for a kicker, your feet are your livelihood. Um, the oddest part of this entire thing, at least in my opinion, is how the Buccaneers organization is handling this. Now, a lot of you know it's not a big secret. I've followed the Tampa Bay Bucks for many years, along with many other teams, especially being in the Atlanta market, having to follow other people in the NFC South. The Bucks are usually a really good organization in the way they handle things and to create a crisis from really expanding into a full-blown problem. However, for some reason, they decided to designate Lawrence Tynes to the NFI list, which is the non football related injury list, instead of the IR list, which is typically what you would put somebody on with this sort of injury. The only, just talking to different people and the different things I've read, in my own personal opinion, I think their only reason for doing this was to kind of save face, because if you put him on the IR, you're kind of accepting blame that it happened at your facility. Clearly, after they had to deep clean the facility and the NFL officials went in and you know, they agreed with what they did. But at the same time, it's not been a good situation. And Tynes' wife, Ashley, no, sorry, Amanda Tynes has been all over Twitter speaking out about it, because Greg Schiano, the head coach, has been quoted as saying that the players were responding nicely, or they were in good spirits. And she posted a picture of Lawrence sitting on the couch with some tubes hooked up to him. Not so good expression on his face, saying, "Oh yes, he's responding well." To me, they need to try to fix this. We don't need it to be a full blown lawsuit like other teams have had over the years, or things like this. But so far, this has got to be two of the worst things that could happen to the NFL right now, barring absolute mayhem with the concussion system or something like that. But faking injuries, I think they can contain a little better than having bacteria related problems at facilities. I know the Patriots, who had practiced with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right before all this outbreak, have went through their facilities. They've checked all their guys and everything. But for right now, everything seems to be contained, and I hope the Bucks can and the Tynes family can reach a good agreement between them. Make sure everybody's back on the same page. The Buccaneers did sign Ryan Lindell, who used to kick with the Buffalo Bills, in order to kick for him this year. That makes the third kicker that they've had this year, with Connor Barth being out after tearing a ligament in his knee early in the preseason. But we'll be back shortly after a message from our sponsors. Hi, I'm Jeremy York. Are you looking for a different spin on football? A different way to look at the great gridiron sport? You need to watch my show Endzone. Each week, we'll break down all the great matchups, all the great college news, and all the great local high school stories. Each week, right here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And we're back. Always check out our sponsors. We'll have all the links up on the Facebook page and the Twitter as well. Probably YouTube too. Right quick, I want to get my 5 spot, which each week is my 5 games you need to watch. The NFL did a real good job on week 1. They practically did it for me. Obviously, you need to check out Baltimore at Denver, which is the kickoff. It's Thursday. It's actually probably about to start. You definitely need to check that out, because there's so many people that were on different teams and everything. You got Peyton Manning against the defending champions. Can Joe Flacco keep doing it? Elmas Dumerville's now a Raven. Used to be a Bronco. How's that going to fit in real quick? There's just all kinds of different storylines going on here. That's supposed to be an 8:30 start, even though I hear there could be some delays in the weather. So be prepared. It could start a little later. My guess, probably 9:10ish. As far 10 after 9, I would say is probably a good guess, but don't quote me on it. Uh, the 1 o'clock game, Atlanta at New Orleans. You definitely have to check this out, because anytime anybody in the NFC South plays another team from the NFC South, this turns into a slobber knocker. It's just going to be a back and forth heavyweight fight. Two high-powered offenses, two question mark defenses. I think somebody could score upwards above 40 points. I'm thinking it's seriously just going to be a high-scoring game. You definitely need to check that one out. Green Bay will be playing at San Francisco. I know one of our friends from the show, Daniel, he's a big San Francisco fan. He will probably try to check that out. That is a 4:25 start, Daniel, so make sure you don't miss that one. But a couple of these are rematches from last year's playoffs, with the Baltimore, Denver, and the Green Bay, San Francisco. In those, obviously, Baltimore defeated Denver, went to the Super Bowl, eventually won it. San Francisco defeated Green Bay, went to the Super Bowl, didn't win it, almost won it. Blackout was a lot of help, but that's a completely different story at this point. But that's the 4:25 game. Sunday night football is going to be the New York Football Giants at Jerry World playing the Dallas Cowboys. Once again, here's another division that if you really want to know what's going on with this division, all you have to do is watch Sunday night and Monday night, because following on the very next night, Philadelphia at Washington is going to be the Monday night game. That's a 6:55 start. For some reason, they decided to bump it back a few minutes because there is another Monday night game. But to me, those are the five that you really, really need to watch. Real quickly, I do want to hit on some things real quick because I'd kind of like to. I don't even need the credit, but I'd like to be able to say I told you they were going to be good. Right now, I got four teams that I'm kind of watching this year that I think are going to be emerging teams, with three, maybe even the fourth, could squeak into the playoffs, wild card spots, maybe even the division in some cases. But I'm going to start with the St. Louis Rams. The St. Louis Rams, I believe, are going to grab a wild card this year. They've got playmakers at practically every position. I think Sam Bradford's going to benefit from having the same coordinators and same head coach for the first time in a long time. He's got the weapon of the future, kind of their answer to Dallas's. Just forgot his name. It happens. Dez Bryant. Sorry, Dez. What Dez Bryant is to the Cowboys, I think Tavon Austin is going to be to the St. Louis Rams. But you also have Chris Long. You have Jake Long. You have Chris Givens is still there. They've had a lot of turnover over the years, but to me, it all centers around their defensive leader, their Ray Lewis, so to say, James Laurinaitis. The things he did in the Big Ten for Ohio State are just, you can't even hardly put them into words. He's just one of those dynamic players, great head on his shoulders. I mean, he comes from a good bloodline. His dad was a WWE wrestler. I mean, the guy knows how to hit. But you definitely need to check out the Rams just for that reason. Just because they have a young defense that could make a 10-year run as to being one of the top defenses in the league. The second team is the Miami Dolphins. Once again, it does have a lot to do with their starting quarterback, but I think Ryan Tannehill is going to start really showing what he can do this year. They've got all kinds of other weapons as well. They're actually in a better spot, whereas St. Louis is in the same division as the 49ers and the Seahawks, who are both perennial Super Bowl favorites. Miami could actually, if New England falters a little bit, Miami is easily the second best team in the division, because they're in the same division with the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets, who both have a handful of train wrecks that they need to kind of figure out. Not saying they can't, but for the most part, Miami should be able to squeak into the number two spot. If New England struggles a little bit, they could squeak out and maybe grab this division, but they're another wild card team to watch. The Jacksonville Jaguars. I know everybody laughs. Everybody doesn't think Jacksonville's got a good team. Oh, they don't know who's going to be the quarterback. Oh, this has happened. To me, all I see is they're just surrounding themselves the same way St. Louis has done. Just young depth, getting playmakers, getting people who are going to make the right decisions, who are going to stay out of trouble, and know how to work well together. I mean, right now, Henne is their quarterback, former Michigan guy. He can throw the ball. They also have a couple other Michigan guys on the roster. Denard Robinson is listed as their number four quarterback, even though clearly he's either a wide receiver or a running back for the team. But to me, if Gabbert comes back, Jacksonville has a chance to go right around 7-9, 8-8, right at the wild card spot. I believe they're going to do good things. I'll be reporting more on the St. Louis Rams and Jacksonville throughout the season, and hopefully be able to update with some of the other ones. But my fourth team, you have to check out the Kansas City Chiefs this year. They are going to kind of be the St. Louis Rams of last year. St. Louis last year, Jeff Fisher turned them from a losing franchise to almost in the playoffs, barely missed it right at the end. Andy Reid is going to do the same thing for Kansas City. He's got Alex Smith that he plucked away from the 49ers. The 49ers, I don't understand why you don't try to keep Alex Smith, because he was taking that team all the way to the playoffs before he got hurt last year. Kaepernick took over his team. We'll have to watch the 49ers to see Kaepernick's team. But Alex Smith is going to do a lot of great things. Dwayne Bowe, Jamal Charles, they're all the playmakers. They're all still there. All of these are young squads who are looking to make a big impact, and I really, really think they're going to. You need to watch these four. So to recap real quick, You need to watch Baltimore at Denver on Thursday. You need to watch Atlanta at New Orleans Sunday at 1. Sunday at 4:25 is Green Bay and San Francisco. The New York Giants are going to be against the Dallas Cowboys at 8:30 on Sunday night, and the Monday night football game at 6:55. Have to get there early. Hopefully you can get off work early. Is the Philadelphia Eagles against the Washington Redskins, which should be a really, really good matchup and interesting because they're kind of similar teams. Their quarterbacks are almost mirror images of each other, and Chip Kelly's got a new offense that's supposed to be chaotic, like back when he was in college. And make sure you check out the St. Louis Rams, the Miami Dolphins, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are my 4 breakout teams this year. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.